Good morning. So today we're going to talk about biochemistry, which I know sounds really intense, but remember bio means life, so we're just going to talk about the chemistry of life. Mainly, how are molecules formed? Make sure you set up your page for Cornell Notes and you get your essential question written down. Okay, so specifically today we're going to talk about a biomolecule. Now, biomolecule, bio is life, and the molecule we talked about on Monday. So a biomolecule is simply a molecule found in all living things. So make sure you have that definition written down. They are necessary for life. Okay, so this slide has nothing you need to write, but just know when we're talking about where molecules come from, we are going to go back to a couple of ideas you may have heard in middle school just as a refresher. Okay, now all three of these things are definitions you need. So, matter is just anything that has mass and takes up space. You matter because you have matter. Oh, such a punny joke, guys. Anyway, I know you loved it. Okay, and an element is matter made up of only one type of atom. If you see it on the periodic table of elements, then it's an element, okay? An atom is the basic unit of an element. Remember, atoms have protons, neutrons, electrons, all that. We aren't going to really get into that. That's more for chemistry, but just so we are all kind of working with the same definitions today. Okay, in biology, we are only going to talk about 5 elements. So make sure you have these 5 elements written down. So, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus. Okay, those are the only ones we're going to worry about because they're the ones found in our biomolecules. Okay, on your paper, you should tell me why we are studying about biomolecules. The answer is on this slide, but make sure you tell me why we're studying about biomolecules. Make sure you raise your hand so I can check your paper at this point in time. Okay, so something important to know about carbon. Carbon is represented by the letter C, and if you see a molecule like this one, and you're like, well, I only see one carbon here. That's not actually true. All of these corners, corner C, right, where there's no label, stand for carbon, okay? Make sure you have that written down. That's going to help you with the assignment we'll do in a little bit. Okay. Just like carbon's represented with a C, hydrogen is represented with an H. Nitrogen is represented by the letter N, nitrogen. And phosphorus, which I know makes an F sound, but it's really a PH, so phosphorus is represented by a P. Okay? Knowing the letters and that like this corner is carbon is going to help you identify all of these crazy shapes you see. So memorize those five elements. Now, all of the compounds we're going to talk about in biology are organic. Okay, organic compounds mean that they have the element carbon. And since they're the basis for living matter and it's biology and that study of life, we will only be talking about carbon. Okay? On your paper, I want you to write what you think we would call something that did not have carbon in it and have me check. Okay, this slide is really, really important to get all the parts down and make sure you color code it because that's going to help you. So when we put all of those different elements together and we've arranged them into molecules, we can make what we call macro or big molecules, okay? And they're formed by combining small molecules. So we call those macromolecules polymers. Poly means many, mers is parts, okay? And they're made from monomers, so the one part. So where 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals a lot. And I'm going to show you some examples of this on the next slides. Okay, so in this picture, what would the monomer of my Teddy Graham polymer be? If you said a repeating unit of vanilla and chocolate bears, then you're correct. That is my monomer. Okay, so what would the monomer of this Teddy Graham polymer be? If you think it's a repeating unit of 2 vanilla and 1 chocolate bear, then you're correct. That's my monomer. It doesn't have to just be 1 Teddy Graham, it's the smallest repeating unit. We're finding the pattern. Okay, now on this one, what's the monomer in this picture? You hopefully can recognize it's those 3 atoms. I want you on your paper to draw and label the monomer and the polymer in this picture. Make sure you raise your hand so I can check your notes when you're done. Okay, so remember, molecules are atoms that are bonded together. Now the bond is where the energy is stored. So when that bond is broken or formed, energy can be released, and it's usually released as heat. And again, we're going to try and keep the chemistry part of this really simple, but you need to know bonds store energy and that those bonds can be broken and formed. When atoms are bonding together and breaking apart, we call that a chemical reaction. Okay? And then this is a repeat of the last slide, so you don't have to rewrite it if you already have it. Okay, do make sure you have all of the parts of this slide and you color code it just like I have with the reactants and the products in different colors, okay? So when you read a chemical reaction, I'm reading the reactants or the ingredients, okay? So think ingredient, okay? They go into the reaction. Here I have carbon and I have oxygen. When the chemical reaction takes place, I get, or it yields, carbon dioxide. This is my product. It's produced, okay? So if I had a cake, my ingredients would be the milk and the sugar and the flour and the chocolate and all of that, and my product would be the cake. And just so you know, because it's kind of hard to see how I wrote, ingredient is spelled I-N-G-R-E-D-I-E-N-T. I know my E got a little sloppy there. Okay, so the 4 major biomolecules we're going to talk about because they make up so much of your body are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And except for number 4, we find biomolecules 1 through 3 in our food. Okay? Making these polymers, these macromolecules or biomolecules, is what we call metabolism. Metabolism is just making and breaking those in your body. Okay, and this happens in 2 ways. And so there are some key word parts here for you. First, this HYDR means water. So, and as you probably remember from middle school, the D prefix means to take something away. So dehydration synthesis, and synthesis we know is making something, is where we're making a polymer, by taking away water. So that's what you see in this picture. Here, I have a monomer of glucose, a monomer of glucose, and to connect them together, the OH and the H are removed, they make water, and I end up with this polymer where they're bonded. Dehydration, taking away water to make a polymer. And if I wanted to break a polymer, I'm going to do hydrolysis. So again, this HYDR for hydro is water, and lysis here means to cut. So I'm cutting with water. Water is like my knife, okay? So I take this polymer, I put in some water, the water breaks apart, and now I have 2 monomers, okay? So that's how metabolism happens in your body, and that's why water is so important for you to be drinking a lot of. You can't make and break down your food without water. Water is what cuts apart your food, okay? All right, please make sure you answer the essential question in your notes, okay? I've given you some words to use. If you want to include water and food in that instead of 2 of these, you are more than welcome to. When you're totally done, raise your hand so you can get a grade.